Hello fellow gamers, Peter here, also known as Universal Head. You've arrived at the Esoteric Order of Gamers. It's all about thematic, fun games here. All types of games, as long as they've got lots of atmosphere and you can get into them and make pew pew noises when you're moving things around and just have a laugh. That's what it's all about for me. Today I feel very privileged. Games Workshop have been extremely generous and kind. Thank you, Games Workshop. They have sent me this Warhammer, the Horus Heresy. It's a big box, as you can see. And this, when I saw this coming out, I just thought, what's this Horus Heresy business? I actually didn't know anything about it. I mean, I know what the Horus Heresy is, but I didn't realise that there was a different Warhammer 40,000 game set at the time of the Horus Heresy. And as you can see, it's very glossy and reflective, this box. Yes, the Horus Heresy game was pretty much created by Forge World, which are the arm of Games Workshop that make sort of more custom models, smaller runs, usually much more expensive. And because I've never bought any of those Forge World models, they're just too cost prohibitive for people down here in Australia and New Zealand. And so I didn't really keep track of the fact that this game was so popular, but apparently it is. And the funny thing is, when this was announced, Games Workshop really didn't go into a whole lot of detail about what it was. They just sort of kind of assumed that we all knew what it was. So even for long-term players like myself, I went, well, what is Horus Heresy? And how come it's a different version of Warhammer 40K, and isn't that really confusing, and what's going on? The one thing that did excite me, however, is that this has got the original Mark 6 armor Space Marines in it. The ones with the beaks. And they're the ones I grew up on. So let me show you some of the original Citadel Space Marine figures. I've got some of the original metal ones and some of the ones from the first plastic set for the Space Marines. And it'll be really fun comparing those really early ones with the new ones in this set. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. I'm going to show you what you get. We're going to talk about it. And I'm going to build some models and show you what they look like. It should be a lot of fun. Stick around. Here we go. Before we check out the new set, let's have a brief wander down memory lane. This is 1988's Adeptus Titanicus, set in the Horus Heresy, and it's often said that one of the reasons the Horus Heresy was created was because they only had one design of Titan for Adeptus Titanicus, and the idea of a universe-spanning civil war was a perfect excuse to just have the one type of Titan. You could just paint it in different ways. You can see with these models here, it's long before the days of worrying about colour schemes. I just came up with a good guy colour scheme with this camouflage pattern on the back. Pretty fancy for the time, look at that. And then for this guy, I thought he was a traitor, so he went red and black. And you can see there's no connection to any established legions or anything like that. Over here we've got my original Space Marines. The bunch on the left are all plastic from the original plastic Space Marines box set. And these ones are all metal, some of which are from the very first releases of metal Space Marines. It was absolutely anything goes back in these days. As you can see, I did a few conversions. I think these weapon things are actually metal, and I don't know where I got them, but I just attached them to these models. I did other things like attach a couple of rocket things to the back of this Space Marine captain. This guy got a plastic orc head attached to his arm as though he'd just ripped it off his defeated victim. Here we have the original missile launcher design. Still a great design, I think, to this day. And here's a guy with a flamer. And you can see they're all wearing Mark 6 armor, the beaky helmet, and this is certainly the design that really takes me back to my earliest days of the hobby. This guy even has a shield with some custom designed iconography on there. Now this Legion is one I invented myself. It was called the Purple Haze Legion. Purple and yellow colours. And I designed this little flying hypodermic icon to be their chapter badge. I think there are red dots on the bases because the original Rogue Trader set of rules took into account fields of fire. This is an interesting metal one too. I'm not sure what type of armour this is, but it's certainly different from the beaky design. The other thing you can see on these models, of course, are the studded shoulder pads. So that was the Horus Heresy in the earliest days. Now, of course, these Space Marine models were not designed for the Horus Heresy. They were just supposed to be normal Space Marines. But it's funny that now we've gone back in the Age of Darkness set to the beaky design and the Mark 6 armour. Well, it's really something looking at those old miniatures. That was about 1987, 88. I was about 22 years old at the time. When Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader came out, there were sort of no rules. I mean, obviously there were rules in the book, but there was no mention of the Horus Heresy or anything like that. I think there was one mention of some kind of betrayal, but they certainly hadn't developed all that. And I think it's only when they got to Adeptus Titanicus that they really started to flesh it out. But back then, of course, you could do anything. As I said, I created my own chapter. I'd convert models into weird and wacky things. And there wasn't that huge amount of lore that there is now. I mean, now it's so detailed, it's almost like a real history. There's just an astonishing level of detail. I think that's fantastic. I mean, a lot of people still enjoy that. They still convert models and do whatever they want and all the rest of it. But there is that feeling that's lost, that was the fact that it felt like a new frontier. Everything was being created. It was all kind of seat-of-your-pants stuff. Exciting times. But anyway, we've got a new exciting time now, and that is to look at this big box set and see what it's like. The Horus Heresy rules started coming out by Forge World in 2012. There were some black books. It was based on the then edition of the game, which was 7th edition of Warhammer 40,000. And for some reason, I'm not really sure why, these rules are still based on that version of the game. So you've got the modern version, which is up to 9th edition of Warhammer 40,000. Gee, I wonder what they're going to do for 10th edition. That's going to be a big deal, isn't it? But this one is still based on the 7th edition rules, so it still uses things like cross-indexing on tables and everything, which is bizarre. Obviously, there are old fans of this version who don't want to see it change too much. I believe some rules tweaks have been made, but it's still essentially 7th edition Warhammer 40,000. So there you go. 2 different versions if you want to play. Who knows whether Warhammer 40,000 fans dedicate themselves to one version or the other. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to play this system and see how the old system works. Though I'm not a huge fan of looking things up on tables, that's for sure. Now, all these years, the models set in the 31st millennium, which is the Horus Heresy time, have been done by Forge World. Now, this is the first time they've all been available in plastic, and that's what most people are really excited about. Enough of me talking about it. Let's have a look at that plastic right now. So let's open this big beast of a box. Ugh. And look at this. Now, this made me smile straight away. These are the old measuring sticks that you used to get from way back in the late 80s. Very nostalgic to see these two. You cut this bit off, of course, and you've got 2 measuring sticks which have inches on them. Absolute classic stuff. The old templates, which haven't changed for a long, long time. They're still the same design. And then plastic, plastic, plastic. There's so much in here. I'll sort this out and show you what you get in a moment. But as you can see, there is heaps. Wow, look at all this. Here's our tank as well. Fantastic stuff. Now, this set is not going to be cheap, of course. Necromunda Ash Wastes, which came out recently, was very expensive. I believe this one is going to be expensive too, though they have said they're going to keep it under a threshold. Well, we'll see. And especially down in Australia and New Zealand, it's going to be a lot of money as well. I don't know what it's going to be yet because it hasn't been announced. But yeah, it's going to be a pricey set. But there you go. And look at this. This is other stuff you can get. Vehicles and units you see here are just a few of the many ways you can add to the contents of this box set. Hold on, I just got the box set. Don't talk about adding to it yet. But look at these great tanks and rhinos. Great to see old rhinos. These have a fond place in my heart as well because the old rhino plastic set was very exciting. It was the first vehicle that Games Workshop created and was very exciting when it came out. Good times, good times. So, here is our rulebook, and it is huge. Look at the size of this. Now, this was wrapped in plastic, but I've already ripped the plastic off. But wow, an amazing big book there. I'll show you that in a moment. We've got some nice reference sheets. I'm liking the whole sort of black feel of the thing. And look at this, the old roll to hit attacker's weapon skill versus defender's weapon skill. That really takes me back. Isn't it funny to see this old system? And then we've got strength versus toughness table. So yeah, this is old school, all right. It's funny, the setting is old school and the rules are old school. Another reference sheet. Here's our construction book, an introductory army list. Now, a few people were a bit annoyed in my Necromunda Ashwace unboxing that I didn't mention the fact that you didn't get all of the army lists and things in the box. And the reason I didn't is because they've been doing that for ages. It's not unusual at all. We all know that you have to get extra books for, you know, your full army lists and everything. They never provide them in these starting sets. And they've done the same here. You've got, so there's all the construction. Then starting from here, you've got your army lists. So this will be for the units you get in the box, and that'll be it. If you want more detail, there are other books on the way, of course. There'll be a book for the Loyalists and a book for the Traitors. 2 more hardbacks. So, like everything, you get into a Games Workshop game, you're really making an investment. It's going to cost you a lot of money. Really, really high quality stuff, but it will cost you money. So, yeah. Don't expect that you're going to get full army lists for all the Trader legions and all the Loyalist legions in this box. You're not going to get that. However, you will get enough to play with what you get in this box. Got a nice transfer sheet there. Heaps of bases. And of course your dice. And as you can see, it's a table full of plastic. There's so much in this stuff. This really takes me back. These are the Tactical Marine sprues. They're all the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sprues there. And here's your standard Tactical Marine, generic, which you can turn into a Loyalist or Traitor Marine. And it's really nice to see, you know, a Marine all on one sprue. Fantastic stuff there. There's a whole lot of accessories here, banners and things like that. Sidearms, swords, grenades, all that kind of thing. We've got 2 Praetor sprues here. 2 different types of Praetor, identified by flowing cloaks. 4 sprues, or 2 large sprues, however you want to identify it, of Cataphracti Terminators. A sprue here for the Contemptor Dreadnought, and one for the Spartan Assault Tank. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sprues here, and it looks here like we've got various additions to that, small weapons and hatches and things like that, and then some large weapons over on this sprue. Lovely choice of weapons. Look at the size of that. That looks like lasers there, more lasers. Wow, lots and lots to build here. This is going to take some thought and some time, and it's going to be great fun putting together these armies. But yeah, really impressive amount of plastic in the box. So as promised, here's a little size comparison. We've got a Marine, one of the Super Duper New Marines from the Indomitus set on the left. On the right, we've got my original old Purple Haze, first plastic sprues ever created, Space Marine. And in the middle, the brand new Horus Heresy Age of Darkness model. And I must say, it's a pleasure to be building these beaky models again. They're just absolutely lovely. And I think the scale is good. The 2 on the left could work together in games if you wanted them to. But they're very nice models and look great. Now I'm still in the process of building these, and I want to paint some sub-assemblies and also maybe magnetize some of these extra weapons. But this is the Dreadnought. You can see he's got some very nice weapons there, which are going to be quite impressive. Hopefully I'll be able to magnetize those. That little head there is separate too. I want to paint him separately. Here we've got one of the Cataphracti Terminators. Nice old school looking design there. This gives you an idea of the size of the Land Raider, which is just going to be wonderful. I think it's around that way, isn't it? Yep. Just a really nice chunky vehicle model. And finally, here are our 2 Praetors. You have some head options with these, but I've gone with Beaky with the big Roman comb on and the sort of gas mask guy. Lovely detailed gothic looking figures to lead your forces. So let's have a look through this huge book. It's pretty lovely, and it's broken as usual into lore and rules. And if I can find where the rules start, they're about here. A bookmark here. So the rules start here. So as you can see, the background material is almost half of the book, and a whole lot of stuff here. Now, of course, this goes into amazing detail about the Horus Heresy and the Empire or the Imperium I should say, just before the Horus Heresy. And really so much background material. So this is the age of the Emperor before the heresy starts. Amazing artwork. It's just packed with stuff. A lot of reading to do here if you want to go into all that amazing level of detail, which I don't really. And that's only because, as I've said many times, I play lots of games, and this isn't the only game I play. If it was, I could devote myself to all this detail, but I just don't have the time. But it's nice to browse through at a quiet moment, and lovely to see information like this, the different marks of armour, all clearly talked about and described and illustrated. There's Mark 6, of course. So really lovely. The bulk of this section is broken up into a lovely section for every one of the legions. So Dark Angels, Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, White Scars, Space Wolves, of course, Imperial Fists, Night Lords, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, World Eaters, Ultramarines, of course, Death Guard, Thousand Sons, Sons of Horus, of course, the Traitor's Legion himself there, and Word Bearers, Salamanders, Raven Guard, Alpha Legion, Talons of the Emperor, which is the Emperor's personal guard, of course, the Legios Custodes, and then the Solar Auxilia, which I haven't heard much of before, but these groovy looking guys. The Mechanicum, which of course is the Titans and all that stuff. And then we get on to the Age of Darkness, and it starts describing everything that happened during the rebellion and the key events of that rebellion. A map, of course, of the Imperium of Mankind. And then we get on to the rules. So, wow, so much background information there about the different legions. Pretty amazing stuff. Of course, the decision I have to make when I start putting these models together is which legions I'm going to build. And I've already decided I am going to do the Sons of Horus, just because, well, it's just a classic, isn't it? You know, if you're going to have the traitor himself, the arch-traitor, you might as well have his legion. So I'll do the Sons of Horus. The other one, the Loyalist Legion, I'm not so sure of. In the box examples, of course, it's the Imperial Fists. Not too crazy about painting a whole lot of guys in yellow. And, you know, it's a little bit too bright for me. So I have to think about that. I don't know what Loyalist Legion I'm going to do. So then we get on to the core rules. And I was thinking as I looked through this book, I must have been through the rules for so many Games Workshop games. And over and over and over, I've just read this rule system of the roll to hit, roll to wound, roll to save. It's quite incredible. I can't describe how many games I've gone through that system with. It's amazing that they came up with that system and they've applied it to so many games and it's lasted for so long. And yet, here's where I'm going to be controversial. I just think it's inherently flawed and I just don't know why they've held on to it for so long. I can only think it's just due to tradition, because you have to go through so many steps. And the one thing I always find with the games that use this system is it can be so frustrating to roll to hit, roll to wound, and then have someone make their save. Because you go through this whole process and there are 3 different steps where you can hit or miss. And I know it adds so much granularity to the whole thing. You can obviously add modifiers and special rules for every one of those steps and more. But I just think it's just not a snappy system. And I always get frustrated when I play it. I still have enjoyable games, and you can have very cinematic games. And I'm not knocking Games Workshop as a whole in this respect at all. I can understand why they stick with it. I just wish they'd evolve it a bit more. And the funny thing is, even though this is based on 7th edition, and it has that system to the max because you have to, you know, cross-index things on tables and stuff, they've actually added something to this, which is a system of reactions. So instead of just going to the modern way of doing things, which is to do alternating activations, they seem to do everything they possibly can to avoid having alternating activations, even though it's so common in modern gaming. And instead, they've shoehorned in this system of reactions where you can get 1 to 3 reactions, and during the other person's turn you can react to one of their models doing something. So it's kind of an Overwatch kind of reaction thing. For example, if someone moves next to you, you can move away. If they shoot at you, you can fire back or evade, that kind of thing. So it's like they kind of acknowledge that the system didn't work very well because you did, apart from close combat, you did all of your actions and then the other player did all of their actions. They acknowledge that that can be boring because you're sitting there waiting for the other player to do their stuff. So they added these reactions, whereas they could have just fixed that problem by doing alternating activations. I activate a unit, you activate a unit, back and forth. So it's a mystery to me. And the one thing that will always frustrate me about Games Workshop games, even though I enjoy playing them occasionally, is that they just hang on to this system. If I ran Games Workshop, I'd make everything alternating activations, and I'd probably take out the wound step. It'd be roll to hit and roll to save. That'd be it. I just always get frustrated when you hit something and then you can't wound it. Anyway, I've been chatting away about this because it's a little personal bugbear of mine, but it's still a fantastic rules system which hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world have played and enjoyed for 40 years or so. Who's going to listen to me? Nobody. It's just been amazingly popular for a long, long time. It continues to be the root of the most successful game company in the world, and that's just the way it's going to be. Look at this lovely Sons of Horus army, and this is the photo that probably inspired me to want to do the Sons of Horus, because I just love the look of this. Throughout, there's fantastic pictures here, as you can see, of different armies. Actually, it was this one that inspired me, not the other one, but they're very similar. Lovely looking little army there. I think that's really, really nice. So there's many examples of the different legions and how people have painted them up. Very inspiring stuff for your own modelling. Of course, we go into the different modes of play, all that kind of stuff. That's very common to all games. And then this is really nice to actually see some examples of battlefields of different styles. Really like that. And more information about battles. And some various deployment maps there. And then we have some battle plans just at the end. All different types of play, etc. There's some missions. Blood Feud, Onslaught, Shatter Strike, Dominion, Tide of Carnage and War of Lies. Only 6, strangely enough. Seems there's some opportunity there for extra stuff. It will no doubt come in supplements, etc. They're the Imperial Fists. Stunning looking army, but again, a little yellow for my tastes. And that's the book. Oh, there's a bit of psychic stuff at the end, and then a reference section. And again, there are those tables. So that's it. What an amazing book. Now, I know I just took the opportunity there to have a personal rave about the basic Games Workshop play system, but I just wanted to show you through the book as well to show you what you get in it. And it's a beautiful looking book, and I'm sure players of the Horus Heresy in the past and new players will just find it absolutely stunning. Well, there you have it. That's what you get inside the box of Warhammer, the Horus Heresy, Age of Darkness. Pretty impressive. As you can see, a huge pile of plastic here. I've got some serious modelling to do. Got to get into this. I'm really impressed by this box set. The only thing that confuses me, well, not confuses me, but for someone who is a casual player like myself, I wonder about the confusion about having 2 Warhammer 40,000 versions. And I can see experienced players go, oh, Gary, what are you talking about? Oh, don't be ridiculous. You know, this game is this and this game is that. But they're both very complex rule systems. And I wonder if it's possible to say one weekend, hey, let's play the Horus Heresy. We'll just learn 7th edition rules with the reactions and the extras and blah, blah, blah. And then next weekend say, hey, let's play Warhammer 40,000 9th edition and not get confused between the two. They are different sets of rules. Of course, they're still the same roll to hit, roll to wound, roll to save system that Games Workshop have used for so long, but there are definite differences between the two, and so many little special abilities and extra rules and lists and everything. You'd really have to dedicate yourself to one system or the other. And for a casual gamer like me, that's a bit of confusion because I don't have the time to separate two very similar game systems in my head. I'd have to choose one or the other. So I'm going to forget about 9th edition for a while and concentrate on the Horus Heresy and play this one and see if this older system still stands up. And basically enjoy the whole old school nature of this game. It does feel nicely nostalgic. I mean, in a good way. I love the older style of models. I think that's fantastic. I like the emphasis on the very dramatic and melodramatic nature of the whole Horus Heresy business. And that lore is great. I'm not personally going to get into huge detail with it and read lots and lots about it, but just the basic concept is a great basis for a lot of fun games. So it's a very impressive set, and it'll be very interesting to see what other models they bring out for this in the future. I am guessing that this is the kind of pattern we're going to be seeing when Games Workshop get around to releasing the old world again, which is the before Age of Sigmar version of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and they'll probably go back to an earlier set of rules from Warhammer Fantasy Battle and maybe update it a little bit. And then we'll see a whole range probably of models on square bases, and it'll be back to formations and everything. And that'll be the same thing. You'll play the old world system of Warhammer, or you'll play Age of Sigmar. And if you're crazy like me, you'll probably play both and get really, really confused and spend a lot of time making rule summaries for them. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'm Peter. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm on social media. There's my website, orderofgamers.com, where you can find heaps and heaps of stuff. Go and check it out. You'll really enjoy it. And I'll be back with more gaming stuff soon. In the meantime, I've got some building to do, because I'd love to show you these all built and also later show them to you painted as well. Good gaming, everybody. Bye for now.